Please. When you're ready. Oh, you guys caught me! I feel such a sense of trust with you guys now. Trust. Trust. Nelly?
Okay.
Okay. Same thing?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Oh!
I feel like I've got a little bit of energy here to trust you guys. Okay. Guys, you're gonna catch me. Okay. Trust and stuff. Trust and love. Trust in these guys, my family, my home, my life. Here we go.
Trust.
Whoa. Trust.
Welcome ProStart 2 students. Here we are building successful teams. My name's Chef Hawks and this is chapter number 12. Let's jump right in. When we start working on exactly who we're going to place into our team, we need to start by figuring out what each of those players is going to do. So by doing that, we actually work out job descriptions. These are documents which define the work that's done by each position within your organization. These are essential and non-essential responsibility functions that each of these people will have. It's a helpful tool for management and for human resources to be able to use when we're recruiting and maintaining those employees in the company. What do we put in our job description? Well, we should have educational and legal requirements that are needed from those employees. If it's a high school diploma, a degree, certifications, licenses. We should also have the organizational information in there as well. Who you report to, which manager you report to, what your class or salary grade is within that company. And every company has their own settings for those types of things. It should be able to set the employees' expectations of the company, and it defines the boundaries between positions as well as to how they should interact with one another. It should reduce confusion within the company in its structure. Here's a great job description for an executive chef. And so as we look down here, so it has the title, the specific job description, and then primary responsibilities of that position, the knowledge and skill requirements, and then the working conditions that can be expected by that employee, the educational requirements which are expected for that person to become into that position. We're now going to go into exempt and non-exempt employment. And so this is actually arbitrated through the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA. So this is a federal law that establishes legal standards for full-time and part-time employees on the minimum wages that must be paid and overtime pay legalities as well as youth labor laws too. Let's start with our exempt employees. So this is a salary worker position. So they are not covered under FLSA. They do not get any overtime pay. There is a set minimum annual wage that's involved with this though. And so these are for salary positions. So the compensation is based on a set amount each year. It may be divided up into monthly or bi-weekly or weekly pay packages, but the actual set amount is over the course of a year. And so these exempt job duties are mostly for managerial or specialist positions. Non-exempt, on the other hand, are covered by FLSA. So this involves the minimum wage from the United States federal government and sometimes from state and local authorities too. So this does insist that there must be overtime pay for working 40 or more hours per week. Let's take a look at some examples of some exempt and non-exempt positions in the hospitality industry. So exempt, we're looking at dining room managers, executive chefs, banquet chefs, pastry chefs, and general managers. These are all either managerial or specialist roles. And then non-exempt are cooks, dishwashers, serving staff, bussers, janitors, catering staff and catering salespeople, clerical staff, receptionists, and hosts and hostesses. When we're hiring, as a manager, you have to be careful to make sure that you don't fall foul of the law. So there are food service operation managers should know and understand the legal and regulatory environment that they're working in. They should understand the intent of the laws, even if they don't know every single law that's involved. The details that affect their workplace are key, and they may be numerous. We need to make sure that we are current with these laws too, as they do change over time. We have to look at employment laws. So protecting employees, protecting the guests that come in to use the facility, and to protect the local community. We should have a zero tolerance policy with no violations forgiven when there are problems that come up which are not correctly adhered to. Offenders should always be disciplined if there are issues going on, and if they didn't understand them, we should make sure that they are getting the correct training so that they do. So what areas in our business are impacted by different laws? So we have food safety and alcohol service, scheduling and work assignments, workplace safety, union relations, wage and payroll, and employee benefits. Child labor laws are a significant part of working in the hospitality industry. We have to make sure that the youth who are hired are done so safely and within the law. This helps to protect children from unsafe working conditions and working schedules that may not be appropriate to them, and if they have restricted hours, that they're not allowed to work any more than they're permitted. So for 14 and 15-year-olds, there are limitations on the work hours that are permitted for them. 16 and 17-year-olds don't have limited hours, and they can actually get overtime. If they do get overtime, then they must be paid the full overtime wages. And state and local laws can preempt all of these working hours as well. When you're working and you're under 18 years old, there are laws to protect you from being harmed by equipment that may be hazardous. And so this means that for items like large commercial mixers or cutting saws or slicing machines and various pieces of equipment like that are very high hazard, that you may be restricted from being allowed to use any of these until you're at least 18. When it comes to driving, 16-year-olds cannot drive for work purposes. 17-year-olds are severely restricted on those driving for a business. 18-year-olds are permitted. Most states require that minors provide work permits or have age certificates to be able to prove that they are permitted to work and understanding the restrictions that will be placed on them. So this will be a condition for employment for most minors in most states. It's generally issued by a school district or by government labor departments. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, is all about hiring and interviewing in a fair way to make sure that everyone is given equal opportunities. And so they enforce the laws and they give fair chances at job openings. We should be avoiding discrimination, using identical application forms for everyone, using identical tests that may be given to possible new employees, asking the same kinds of questions, and giving the same information to all applicants. Employers cannot ask about race, age, religion, gender, sexual orientation, parents' names, or birthplace. Employers cannot ask about prior arrests. However, convictions are different. If you have been convicted, then you can ask about those, but not arrests, because an arrest may be made, but that arrest may be quashed once it actually arrives in a court of law. Marital status cannot be asked about, nor can children or childcare, disabilities, unless if it has a direct bearing on the job performance, and also height, weight, hair, color, or physical characteristics of the interview. Standardized tools and practices to make sure that every applicant is treated fairly and consistently should always be used. So with our job application, we should receive the same information from interested people. And that's why we should have a standardized job application form, whether it's online or on paper. We should never write any notes as the interviewer on the application form itself. That application form may be handed out to other managers, and you shouldn't be looking to influence others in that process. Everyone should be given an equal opportunity when going up to those managers. Screening for an interview is quite often done by most businesses. So this is done before an interview even happens, and this could be done in person or by phone. This is where an interviewer would call or speak with the person just on some basic requirements that applicant may meet. And this also helps to save time and money by not calling in every single person who has placed an application in. It helps you to narrow the field when you're trying to figure out if someone really is suitable to even be interviewed, let alone offered a job. Cover letters and resumes are another method that we can use too. The cover letter can give the person's interest in the job and an outline of the experience and education that they have. Here's a sample job application form that you can see. So it will take down things like personal data. So always be careful as an interviewer to safeguard this, because it may have their social security numbers on there. It may have a lot of other personal data that could be used by the wrong people. So make sure you keep these under lock and key. It should have the position information that they're looking to interview for, and then it gives any qualifications and knowledge that they have going through education. It also should be showing special skills that individual may have from past experiences, and references too that can be called upon to see if that person is suitable for that job. When we interview job applicants, the interview should be asking about the experience and the past performance of that interviewee. Other screening options include personality or ability tests, looking at references and seeing if that person is suitable for the job, and also having background checks as well to see if that person is eligible for that job. For instance, if that person is applying for a job behind a bar, many states actually don't allow someone who has a DUI on their record, where they've been drunk under the influence of a certain product as well. Interview questions should be mostly open-ended questions. Yes, there are questions that you have to ask which may be yes or no questions, but the best types of interviews are when we allow the interviewee to open up and start talking about themselves openly. So these open-ended questions can involve things like discuss 2 skills you developed at your previous job, or what area of your work skills do you most want to improve, or how would your colleagues describe your work habits. By asking these kinds of open-ended questions, we will actually get the possible future employee, to open up and discuss things more about themselves rather than being closed off about things. Also, using personality and ability and references and background checks can help us get a full open view of exactly what this person is all about. An interviewer should make sure that they're prepared with the appropriate interview questions, schedule interviews without distractions, make sure that they're not going to be disturbed during the interview, interviewing applicants in private areas so that distraction won't happen. An interviewer should read and review all paperwork about that possible future employee before they arrive. They should make sure that the operation information is available to give to that employee as well, whether it's electronic or on paper, so that that person can get a better idea of the actual operation too. We should involve any appropriate supervisor that would be possibly working with them as well, just to make sure that as you're hiring these people, that supervisor is in full agreement of hiring them as well. And of course, we always check references to make sure that anything that employee is saying is true and accurate. Job postings should be clear on their information. They should avoid any discriminatory language that could be used. Things like server or wait staff are good things to be able to use on there. If you use just waiter or waitress, then you may be inferring that that job is only available for a male or a female. You can use both, but wait staff and server and things like that are generally better placed in this type of thing. We should always avoid gender-specific titles and language, and avoid references to specific groups. Make sure that you focus on the skills, knowledge, and abilities. That's how you'll be able to grow a better team. Here's a good example of a job posting. So this one is for a dishwasher. It tells you exactly what the job title is, the location of that job, and then it also starts to describe some items specific to do with it. Things that are needed, like you must be able to lift at least 50 pounds, the times that the shifts will be in place so that you can know if that's a possibility for you. And also it tells you where you can actually apply for the position, and how you'll be contacted about having an interview, and also the fact that that restaurant is an equal employer, an equal opportunity employer as well. When we're onboarding employees, this is a great way to make sure an employee is able to start from day one feeling like they're part of the team. This is how we're going to integrate new employees into our business as quickly as possible. So the goals of onboarding is to allow people to stay in their jobs for longer. It helps us to process their first day, first week, first month, and even up to a full year. We normally would have an onboarding agenda as well. So this is where we can actually make sure that the employees know and understand what's coming, but also so that the manager or the supervisor who's onboarding this individual will make sure that they cover every single area that they're supposed to, so that way a month or two after that employee is hired, they won't still be asking questions that should have been answered in the first couple of days. So this will involve making sure that that employee receives the new hire packet, which has all the different information on to do with their employment, the employee manual, and making sure that they review that manual with that employee, having an overview of the actual organization as well, and giving a full tour of that organization, and then opening up to being able to have a question and answer session, just because you know that after a day or so, that employee is probably going to have a lot of questions to ask as they're exposed to more of the business. The benefits of onboarding is intentionally planning for a new employee when they come in, so that they understand the mission, the vision, the culture, everything that that company is about. It helps to build relationships between the new employee and current employees, and it helps to avoid overwhelming new employees with so much information that they can't understand it all in one go. It helps to boost productivity and the likelihood of that employee staying with us. It helps to satisfy all legal needs as well as we go over all the legalities of what that position is going to entail and what the expectation of the employee is for the company. It helps to learn correct, safe ways to perform tasks in your environment, which may have some dangerous positions involved. It also gives the opportunity for feedback for improvement too. There should be 4 phases for onboarding new employees. So hiring, staying connected with those employees so that they understand everything that's coming their way so they can prepare for it. And we, as a company, can prepare for those new hires coming in. We have orientation. This is where we complete the paperwork, learn about policies for that company, and meet new team members. Training. This is when we have many different types of training involved and making sure that we have the right ones lined up for that employee. We have a better chance for success for that employee by making sure that we have training involved for them and engaging those new employees too, increasing their interest in learning, and also having a mentor as a go-to person for this is vital, and it's a really great thing to be able to have during that first year of employment and going forward to make sure that that employee is fully integrated into the company. Always schedule follow-ups with that employee as well so that you can contact them after training so that you can have surveys, discussions, chats, just to make sure that that full onboarding worked out well for that employee and it was a benefit to them, and hopefully it's going to mean that that employee will stay for a long time. So let's take a look at orientation. So this is where we go into the procedures and policies in the company. We get to meet fellow co-workers. Hopefully you're made to feel comfortable. You're offered all the responsibilities that you're going to be taking on so that you can start becoming a part of that team. We should be, as part of that orientation, reviewing the vision, the mission, the history of the company, and the culture. This can be a very different thing from one restaurant, to another hotel, to a private club. Every organization has its own history and its culture, its way of doing things, and the vision for what we're going to do next, farther down the line, that hopefully you will be involved with. We'll also go over the managers and organizational structure as well, so that you as an employee will understand where you stand in the hierarchy and who you need to talk to if you have any issues or any questions. We'll go over in orientation the benefits and the benefit schedules that will be offered to employees, and also any outstanding hiring or related paperwork that needs to be filled out. We'll go over the policies and procedures that are involved in getting that employee up to speed, and the employee handbook, which has all that information in there that employees must understand in order to be successful in the company. With the job orientation, you're going to review and have a distribution of your job description so you understand everything that's expected of you. An explanation of those expectations as well. Training will come in there as well to understand all the job standards which are going to be placed on you, and also so that you understand the work schedule that you're going to be having as well. As part of your orientation, you're also going to have contact numbers so that you understand who within the organization you contact at different times for different procedures. You're also going to have an introduction to all your co-workers as well, and get a full tour of the working area. If you're working in the kitchen, you should also be toured on the front of house, the restaurant as well. If you're working in the front of house, you should be looking through in the kitchens as well, just so that you can understand exactly where things are coming from, where they're going to, and exactly the stresses that are placed on both sides. You should also understand the distribution of equipment and materials which go on in the company too. When you first start in a company, you're going to be given an orientation packet. So this should include and organize all your documents that you're going to need. Some you'll have to sign, some you'll have to read through and understand, some you'll keep. The employee manual should be in there. You should have information about policies and procedures, employment information, benefits that you'll be open to, and then company topics that may be in there as well, and all the forms and items that you need to sign and receive. So with your employment policies, this will tell you exactly what you should do if you have any absence from work, any scheduled substitutions and trading shifts with other employees as well, paid holidays and what the protocols are for those, any overtime and what happens if you get overtime, and also tipping as well. You should also be understood as to what your pay periods are, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. If you're going to make any shift changes, what's the policy on being allowed to do that? And also time cards. Do you manually punch in and out? Or it could be that you punch in and out on a computer or some other method as well. It should also go into what a performance appraisal will be and what that's going to look like, so you can understand what you need to do in order to score well. And then also wage and salary reviews and when those come up as well, and when you can expect that. And also work breaks too. It should go into the rules and procedures that dictate what happens with life in that organization. Is there a dress code? What are illegal activities that shouldn't happen? What do you do if you have a grievance with a coworker, another manager, a supervisor? What the disciplinary procedures are that you should expect if you break any of these rules. And if there's any probationary period as well, whilst you're onboarding that you may need to be aware of so that you can make sure that you turn into a full employee after that probationary period. And what items you would have to do for cause for dismissal. Obviously, you want to avoid any of those. The rules and procedures should also go into emergencies and what your role are in those emergencies. What the safety rules are for your particular area of work, and if you happen to go into any of the other areas too. Your off-duty time as well, and then having any friends visit, what are the rules and procedures on that? And also personal phone use, whether that's permitted or not. Employee benefits go into items like medical and dental insurance, sick leave and disability leave, meals, whether they're free or reduced, pensions, retirements, and other death benefits as well. And then profit sharing that may be offered by the company, and other retirement and 401k plans that may be offered. So some other topics that may come up as you're being onboarded is employee and locker areas, history and mission of the organization, the organization chart, who's in charge and where does it all flow down to, your job description, and your entry and leaving facility areas as well. When I worked at the Ritz in London, I had a specific door over on the side of the organization where I would have to come and go, and there was a member of security that was always manning that area of the facility as well, to make sure that the employees were entering and leaving appropriately. And then also if there's ever any smoking and non-smoking areas in that facility as well, and what the specific parameters are on whether you can or cannot smoke. Restrooms, where are they? Which ones are appropriate for employees versus guests in the facility? Breakage, are you personally responsible for any accidents, broken dishes or equipment, or will you be held to account for those? What's the parking policy? Are you allowed to park in certain areas around the establishment? Training opportunities and what those might be, and then employee assistance programs that there might be. And then job openings and postings, because it's always great to know if you're going to be able to move up within that business as well. Training is something that's key to all employees to make sure that they have the skills, the knowledge, and attitude to succeed within our company. So we should be looking at having effective training methods within our employment. So this will help to improve the quality of work, it improves growth and promotes growth within our company. It keeps employees challenged and satisfied because they feel that they're not in a dead-end job, that they're constantly going to be working upwards. It creates talent within your organization, which only makes you stronger. So as performance improves, businesses will see increases in sales, fewer on-the-job accidents, improved guest satisfaction, and less food waste and less turnover, less employees leaving. We have 6 key points of effective employee training. Number 1, the employee and the trainer should be motivated. We should be designing training for that new employee. We should have hands-on practice and demonstration to help that employee visualize and then get used to the specific role that they have. We should always set realistic goals and give feedback immediately so that person can understand if they need to alter what they're doing, and then evaluate the employee's progress as they work their way through the training program. Cross-training is essential for a stronger team. What this is when we're going to have employees who learn functions of another job. So this makes more skilled employees. They're more valuable to the company. And the fact is, if an employee is able to do more than one role in the company, the chances are for them to become promoted to a new position, a higher position, is significantly raised. And also, they're probably going to start earning more money. The benefits of cross-training is that we're going to be able to have a backup for our operation. If one person is off today, that's okay. I've got someone else who can jump into that position, rather than having to close off that area of the organization or struggle through with a lower quality of standards. We can also discover different interests and goals within our employees as well. It can help us to aid in scheduling. It can make it a lot easier to schedule when we know that we have a backup to that individual. It will reduce overtime and turnover by being able to have multiple people working on that role, and also hopefully by keeping staff morale and boosting the teamwork from that organization upwards, so that way we have a happier team to work on the job. On-the-job training, OJT, is appropriate for teaching all sorts of new skills to employees. Easily demonstrated skills are perfect for this type of thing. This is a popular form of training because the trainer monitors the progress as the employee is starting to learn new things. They're able to give immediate feedback on there, and comments and or corrective actions can be taken immediately, so that way you can have a very valuable training session with that employee. So on-the-job training involves 4 main steps. Prepare. So you need to make sure as a trainer that you're up to date on the correct procedures that need to happen. You should have all the tools ready for when that employee comes to you for that training. So you present to them, you give that learner all the information that they need to understand that new role and that new task. That employee should now be learning how to perform that task and should practice it as well. After that, you can follow up and verify that the task performance was up to scratch, or it may be that we need to do a little more training. Group training is another form of training as well. It's very cost effective. You can actually work with a whole group of people working on those same training items at the same time. This is where you can give uniform training with group discussions on what you're learning, and so that they will all know what's being taught together. It helps to solve problems together as a group as well. So new employee groups can all be brought in at the same time so that they can start learning all of these items. This is especially good for large businesses that may be hiring more than one person at a time for that same or similar role. It's also good for temporary employees. If you have individuals who are coming in just for that day or for that week or that month, if you can train multiple people, then it can lower the amount of expense that you have in training multiple people on multiple occasions.
Training improves the skill, knowledge, and attitude of employees as they approach their jobs. Effective training is essential to an operation functioning productively. Training can also combat employee turnover. When a manager replaces an employee, the new employee usually starts at a skill and knowledge level that is lower than a fully productive employee. Rather than waiting for the slow process of informal learning to show results, managers should always train new employees quickly. The ability to train replacements is critical to the rapidly growing restaurant and food service industry, and guidelines to effective employee training can help your operation stand out. Begin with motivation. It is important that both the employee and the trainer are motivated to teach and learn. Next, design the training for the new employee and the tasks that they need to learn. Tailor the experience for that specific person. Not all new employees can learn in the same way or at the same pace, so adjust the plan to fit each employee's learning style. Once the trainer and new employee are more familiar with each other and each of their training and learning styles, the next step is to give the new employee hands-on practice and demonstration. It is important to involve the new employee in the training, and the trainer should allow the employee to practice real tasks that will be performed as part of the job. After working back and forth with hands-on demonstrations, the trainer and new employee need to set goals. The goals should be realistic. Both the trainer and employee should know exactly what will be accomplished. The goals will then help shape the training. During this time, feedback is essential to help the new employee remember each task. Always emphasize positive results, even when correcting the way an employee performs a task. The feedback can also help the managers evaluate the employee's progress. Managers should also be objective. Training is for learning, and that takes some time. This is why it's often called the learning curve. Effective training helps employees feel confident that they are competent and a part of the team. Effective training also shows that as the performance of employees improves, the business reaps rewards too. Increased sales, fewer on-the-job accidents, improved guest satisfaction, and less food waste. A winning combination for an organization's success.
A big part to building a better and stronger team is to do appraisals with your employees. So this is a formal evaluation. This is where you take the person's work performance and you analyze it to see how well they've been doing. You'll take a specific period of time. So when you're first employed, this might be after the first couple of weeks or the first month, maybe the first 3 months. Then after that, quite often it's done every 6 months to a year. Promotions and salaries will be discussed during this time as well, and if we're going to be getting any kind of increases. Managers and employees will communicate through this on how well the employee is doing, and also setting goals for that next period, 6 months or a year. It should be all of this will be going in as part of the employee's record on their file as well. So a good evaluation program should begin on the first day when that employee first starts to work for you. Progress should be reviewed regularly. We should be keeping those files for each employee so that we have that as a record to be able to refer to. This will involve a manager and employee meeting. During this meeting, it should always be focusing on the employee's responsibilities and not necessarily focusing on a mistake that may have happened in the last week or so. So if the employee is not performing well, what should we do? Well, we should set goals for their improvement. We should be documenting the problems that are occurring. We should counsel that employee so they understand what's expected and how to make those improvements. We give verbal and preferably written warnings so they're documented. If it gets to that stage, if things are continuing to not work in the right way, then termination would be called for. But we should always keep conversations like this private. We praise in public, we counsel in private. When trying to rate an employee's performance, the best way that's generally used is to use a performance appraisal form. So this is where we rate the employee's performance in different categories to do with their specific job. We always then can agree on measurable goals, and that's key. It should be measurable so that we can understand, is the employee reaching the targets that they're given or not? And then we'll always sign and date them as well so that we can look at those as part of the employee's record. Here's a good sample of a performance appraisal. So it will talk about, as an example of this, giving a range of 1 to 5. So 1 being unsatisfactory, 5 being outstanding, and 3 being right in the middle there where it's satisfactory. And so we'll go into, as a basic item, communication, job knowledge and skills, performance attributes, and accountability. And then overall, how well are they doing, and any comments that the employee or employer may want to add.
Guys, I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about some ideas for the marketing strategy this year. So if you got one, just throw it out there. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, how long is this meeting supposed to last? The schedule wasn't exactly clear.
Should be out of here in 30.
Is that approximate or?
Hey guys, sorry I'm a couple minutes late.
Got caught in traffic.
7 minutes, actually.
What's that?
Couple is 2.
So what we're doing is we're just coming up with some ideas for our new marketing strategy. Anyone?
I think we should implement Pinterest.
Ooh, that's a fun idea.
What about a publicity event in the park?
Interesting. But how are you going to plan around the weather? What if it rains?
So we'll party in the rain.
Okay, just want to emphasize there's no bad ideas here. We're just brainstorming. So.
Yeah, I'm just really thinking it'll be a huge waste of money to try to plan around the weather.
Yeah, okay, we get your concerns. Nancy, thank you.
Okay, anyone else have an idea? Ephraim?
I've always wanted to see rain fall down all at once in a big splash instead of small drops over time. I mean, think how it could impact the irrigation system.
Okay. Terry?
Well, I have an idea from my previous job that I had last year. Let me take that back a little bit. I have this wonderful idea, but it doesn't really make sense unless I just take it back a second and bring it forward together. It was like 3 weeks ago that I remember he said something that I couldn't understand.
Hold on a second, Terry. Hold on. Thanks for pointing. Here's what we need to do. Okay? Lauren, you got this? We do a video submission contest on YouTube.
Oh,
okay?
that's been done.
It'll be on Facebook. It'll be on Pinterest. It'll be on Twitter.
We do something with technology, we lose the senior demographic.
So, you guys want to see an example?
Should we be moving on to the next topic? I mean, it's already quarter after.
There's a lot that goes into building a successful team, and you have to build it from the ground up, from employees coming in, making sure you're screening them, making sure as they're going through the application process, and when you're onboarding them, making sure you're training them right, exactly to where you want them to be, and building that team so that way you have the best success in the industry. I hope you've understood everything in here. Please ask questions if you have any, and I look forward to seeing you in the kitchen. Cheers.